Hi, and welcome to today's show where we talk all things apartments. We talk apartment investing, and that's what we do. Eagle City Multifamily is the group, and our partners, managing partners, Asif Kumar and Nikki and Sanjeev Mall. And I'll be talking about investing, how to invest in apartments and how to what I believe is very important before you invest in any asset class for that matter. And I'll talk about a couple other asset classes as well. I'm also invested in other classes as well. And I'll talk about why think it's important to invest in apartments and some other asset classes that I'm invested in and why. So let's jump right in here. I'm going to do a screen share for just a moment before I get started and share our regular little disclaimer. This is not legal or financial advice. It's not a solicitation for any specific deal. And all participants are welcome to post your questions in the chat, and we'll get to those as I can. And I'll walk right on through our presentation. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment until I get to a certain point. Then I'll share to show a bar graph that is really important, and you really want to know some things about this asset class that I'll be talking about in just a moment. So let's jump right in here and how to invest in apartments and why I invest in apartments. And first off, I'll say I'm invested in several different asset classes. One of them is apartments. And I'll talk a little bit about why I believe that is very important and some of the benefits of investing in apartments. And another thing is crypto. And I'll talk about why I believe crypto, at least the top 5 or so, are possibly a good time in the near future. And I'll talk a little more about that in just a moment. And I'll talk about the self-sustaining investment method with investing in apartments. And I'm also invested in some mutual funds and stocks, which I'm moving that out and graduating over into apartments and other businesses. Okay, so I'm also working at setting up a private equity firm that focuses on investing in businesses, small businesses from $1 to $10 million net earnings, EBITDA, if you're familiar, but with the net earnings, right? And so the focus is to grow those businesses that we acquire or invest in, to grow them to over the $10 million net earnings mark that other equity firms become more valuable to other equity firms, right? That's sort of a benchmark around that range to a lot of other equity firms. And at that point, we can keep it or sell it. So that the business. So that's the plan there. And so let's move in, talk a little bit more about apartments and some reasons there's all these benefits to investing in real estate, right? The government gives incentives for you to invest in apartments or all real estate, in fact, or other real estate too, right? apartments are commercial real estate the way we do anyway, because we are focusing on, we are looking for 60 to 150 unit deals right now. And of course, the market's shifting right now. It's, what is it, December of 2023? The first part of December. I think it's December 4 today in 2023 for the recording, right? And so we're really in a shifting market, right? So the buyers and the sellers, there's a little gap there, right? And that may get bigger, it may get smaller, but we're constantly searching for deals, underwriting deals, and making offers on apartment deals as well. So there's a few things that give an advantage in investing in real estate and in apartments in particular as well, for several reasons. And the one reason that investing in apartments can become what I call a self-sustaining method for generational wealth, right? So if you're in it for the long term, which I recommend, I am in it for the long term, right? And so one thing it makes us look for great deals, and another thing it does is when we sell the deal or refinance the deal, my personal plan is to take all the capital, like the cash flow and the capital gains, and put it back into more deals. And it starts to grow, right? And that's how it starts to become a self-sustaining investment. And once it grows up larger, if we have other methods of producing income, right? Some people have a W-2 job, a career they're building. Some people have things they do, gigs they do, work they do to produce money. Some people have businesses that produce money that you can live on, right? And that produce investment money, right? And so as we invest that money into real estate, and in this case, apartments, large apartment deals, and in the syndications that we do, each investor is a direct owner in the property, in each property, right? So there's a little more, this is more for the small investor. I say the small investor, you know, under $1 million or so, like per investor, like 100,000, sometimes 50,000, sometimes per investor minimums, but typically we'll have 100,000 or maybe 500,000 or $1 million or so per investor, right? Maybe they're $20 to $80 million deals, made, for example, right? And there's multiple investors. The reason I'm pointing this out is it's different than a REIT. If you've heard of a REIT, which is a real estate investment trust that buys a bunch of business of apartments, and it's all in one group. And maybe they're trying to deploy the money fast, so maybe they sometimes buy deals that aren't as good. But this syndication model is you get to see I say for typically for smaller investors, right? Because it's typically one or two deals at a time or a portfolio of deals, right? And so you get to see the deal, you get to see where it's located and choose to invest in it or not. And so that is an advantage of investing in people like us that do the syndication model. Of course, you want to know and trust the general partners on the deal, the lead people that are finding the deal and operating the deal, right? Because there are general partners that run the deal, and there are limited partners that invest in the deal and don't. And the general partners invest too, or at least I think they should. We do. I do. And so that's a thing you want to watch for, just in case you're looking for other apartment syndicators to invest with. And in the case that you don't want to do the work and be the general partner and find the deal and put the syndication together, and all the legal documents and everything and the loans, right? So that is just a little information about our deal structures that we do. And so I think it is very important that you do your own due diligence, that you educate yourself before you invest in these, in any kind of asset class for that matter, but especially in real estate and apartments in this case. And so that's what I was, just before I move on to the next thing, which is crypto, and then I have one more topic after that. I just want to say a little bit more about crypto and share my screen and show you why I'm invested in crypto at this time. And so the self-sustaining method on apartment investing, if you're in a position where you can invest money into apartments, and the cash flow and the capital gains, because, and the reason I say this, our model is a 3 to 5 year hold. And so we'll buy apartments, we'll operate them, improve them, right? Force the appreciation by improving the property and improving the community within the apartment complex. And then we'll operate it successfully and get a better track record, right, than when we bought it, hopefully, right? That's the plan. And so the value goes up, and then we'll either refinance it and hold it, if that makes the most sense at the time, or we'll sell the deal if that makes more sense. Typically we look at doubling our money, our investors' money, or more. So whether that's a 1, 2, 3, 5 year time frame, that's what we aim for, right? And so on the total gains, right? So for example, 5 years, double your money in 5 years, that's really only like a 20% per year. And we do better than that sometimes, and not quite that sometimes. And I know some other operators that have done a lot better than that, right? And so the reason that's the great deals in the apartment market, that's what you should be looking for, right? And in my opinion. So let's move on to crypto. I just want to share you one thing with that before I move on. And I want to share my screen again and roll over to this page here. Okay, so I took a screenshot and then I posted it on here. And so I tried to make it wider so it would show up better for anyone watching on the this screen. And so I believe we're right at the start of another bull run. And that might be in the next few months, maybe throughout the next year. I don't know. I'm just looking at charts, and I follow some successful crypto investors, and I would say the three cryptos I'm invested in are Dogecoin, Bitcoin, and SHIB or Shiba Inu. And those are the three. And do your research. Don't go on what I say, because you want to be sure you're in the correct one, because there's more out there that sound like the real one that may not be. So please do your own due diligence if you're interested in investing in crypto. I have nothing to offer in crypto. I just wanted to point it out, just because I believe, if you can see on my screen right here, we're at the start of another bull run. Okay, so way back in 2013, whenever, actually I cut the dates off at the bottom of this chart here that I'm showing. So, but basically every 800 days approximately is a start of another bull run. Okay, so we have the peak, like the highest point, the peak, like it did a couple years ago. Then it drops off. What Bitcoin, for example, was, what was it, 60, 70,000, somewhere up in that range at the highest point, and then it came down and we had a correction, a market correction. And they say that crypto is set up to run this way. I don't know. But I do know that charts don't lie. They're facts. We can look back at how the market ran for the last 10, 20 years, right? As long as crypto was around. And so there's, on this chart, if you can see, there's an 800-day gap basically between the peak and the start of the next bull run. And so back in, I think it's 2013, those 800 days of it came back down. It was really small at that point. I mean, dollars a coin instead of, like, what is it, $41,000 per coin right now. And we are up in this box in the top right corner. If you can see on my screen I'm sharing, we've had approximately 800 days from the peak to now, approximately. Maybe not quite. So maybe it's not quite in the steep bull run yet. And maybe it won't happen like that again. I'm looking back at what it did the last, what was it, 1, 2, 3 times, right? Times meaning the last 3 peaks. And it's going up. It was down below 20,000 within the last 800 days between the peak and now. It dipped below 20,000, and now we're back up to 40, I think 41,000 approximately now. And the same for Dogecoin and some others. And so that's what I wanted to point out. You can't say I didn't tell you now. So, but do not invest in anything you're not familiar with. I am not recommending anybody invest in apartments or crypto or anything that you're not familiar with and that don't know what to expect, right? Because it goes up and then it comes down at certain times, right? So, but I think we'll have months, maybe a year or so of up market, like bull market, like rising. And there's a lot of predictions out there that crypto, Bitcoin especially, will go very much higher than it has in the past. And one more thing before I wrap this up for today is planning. And there are a lot of people that do very good at planning, and they say the best way to predict the future is to create the future for yourself, right? And of course we can't control the future, but we can have dreams, and then we can plan, and then we can move in that direction, right, toward our plans and toward our dream. And Eleanor Roosevelt said that the future belongs to those who believe in their dreams. And dreaming alone won't get us there. But all the hard work with no dreams won't get us there either, typically, right? We need to dream it, think about it, believe we can do it, and move toward it. And the reason I bring that up in this investing thing is that I believe we need to have a purpose and a goal for everything we do, basically, right? All our major goals, we should set goals ahead. And when we reach those, I already have more goals, and I'm reaching. And a quote by Henry Ford, he says, thinking is the hardest part. That's why so few people do it, right? Creating the organization that Henry Ford did took enormous amounts of thinking and planning and dreaming of how it could be, because a lot of what Henry Ford created and developed didn't exist before he did it, before he created it or brought it into being, in other words. And of course, he had thousands of people helping him, but it took a master plan. It took someone to plan that out and to have a purpose for what they were doing. And so that's something that is very important to me, is for everyone to have dreams and goals and plans, and we can turn them into plans, and then we can start moving in that direction. But if we don't start today, you know what happens? We're 5 years down the road and we're the same place we were if we didn't do something, move toward a goal. Progress, they say, is one of the definitions for happiness. It brings fulfillment to know that we progressed a little more, a little closer. We accomplished something today, and we're a little further ahead. Even if we didn't start investing way back generations ago, like some families did, generations ago they started, and they have enormous amounts of wealth now. But even if you didn't, you can start today. Even if you don't have money to start investing, you can work toward that, right? Work toward earning money, creating a way to earn money, to invest. And so there's something that I do, I call a signature vision. And there's a lot of other people that do it. And I'll mention Grant Cardone because he's in the apartment investing space, and a little flashy sometimes, but it's good. I believe that he has a great family, and I believe his goals and his intentions are good, and good for his investors, good for his family, good for his business and his team. And so, and the reason I bring up Grant Cardone is because I follow him and watch some of the things he does, And one of the things he does is plans every day. This guy is planning and he's writing things down. He said some days he just writes down a plan. He comes up with his idea and he writes it out. And he sits there in the morning or whatever and writes it out, like we all should do. Write it, because when we write it, it completes the circuit. And we can throw that paper away. But the simple act of writing it out, and there's been numerous studies done on that when you write it out, simply dreaming about it, that's a step that has to happen. But if it stops there, it's way less likely to happen than if we write it out. And because a dream doesn't have a starting or a stopping point sometimes, right? But when you write it out, you have to write things down, right? Complete things down, right? Even if it's not a complete master plan, at least the things that we wrote down, they're on paper. We can look at it. It's real now. And we start to believe it more. And when we start to move in that direction, things start to happen. And I've done that for years, ever since I was, I guess, a teenager. I don't know what age. My family took care of an apple and peach orchard when I was growing up, and I would help the family in the family business. And we would be out there trimming trees in the cold winter in Tennessee, by the way. And it was sometimes it was so cold out there, and we're out there trimming trees or whatever we're doing, taking care of this orchard. And it's so boring, and it was not fun work to me at the time, right? But it held me somewhere doing something active, and my mind and my brain and my mind were active at that time. And so when we're doing something, our brain is more active than when we're sitting down, laying down, sleeping, right? We're not coming up with, typically, of course, we have dreams sometimes that are good. But when we're like I say forced, if we're trapped into doing something for a while, we have to stay there, do it. Like driving, that's when I'll listen to books a lot while driving, because my mind is active and I'm driving, so I can listen to a book. And when I'm sitting down, go home the evening, sit down, try to listen to that same book, I'm not as active, and maybe I'll fall asleep and then maybe miss, I don't know how much, because I don't know where I stopped listening, right? And so that helped me when I was a teenager to think of things. What could I do? What would I like to do? And my brother and I would talk about these things. And for days, we'd be out there planning things. What if we could do this? And we actually planned things and did things from that time. And so I think taking time to plan is very important. It doesn't matter how busy you are. Like if you're a business owner, you're working long days, take time to plan and to think, what could I be doing better? Warren Buffett and a lot of other people, but Warren Buffett is very, he takes, like, I think it's a day a week. It's like, I think it's 80%. I just read it recently. It was like 80% of his time is thinking and reading and not out there busy with a busy work, right? And maybe 20% of his time is actually doing what he does, right? but the rest, a large part of his time is thinking and planning and reviewing. Maybe, I don't know what he does, but there's a lot of other people that some CEOs I've read about take 10% of their time, or require their CEOs to take 10% of their time, or 4 hours a week. One famous CEO required his team lead, his top leaders, his C-suite people to do is take at least 4 hours where you're doing nothing but thinking about your biggest problems or your biggest opportunities. And that is very important, in my estimation, to help create our own future, right? And not just go where we were trained to go necessarily, right? So that is all for today. And I want to let you know how to get in contact with my team and I. My phone number you can call is 903-951-7552. If you see it on a YouTube channel or a Facebook post or something, you can reach out, message that way. We watch the messaging pretty close on that, so would love to discuss what we do, and I'm all about educating people, so about investing in apartments especially. So please reach out. My email is herb@EC Multifamily. That is herb@ecmultifamily.com. And the E and the C stands for Eagle City, because we're the Eagle City Multifamily Group, right? So just for a little clarity there. So I will see you all next week.